Joe.
Second.
Second by Gary. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Hiring decision items. Cheerleading proposal. Heidi?
Yeah, Chris and I are here to talk about the possibility of bringing cheerleading back to Kingston. We were both cheerleaders, as was Corinne, right? She's saying, but we just felt like it was like the best time in high school to be a cheerleader, and we had a lot of leadership skills and social skills from it. So we would like to bring up the possibility of bringing it back. Did you receive, you should have received, did you guys all receive these?
Yeah.
The forms, information about it?
There should be, oh, I'm sorry. No, you're fine.
And so have you had a chance to look at it, or would you like us to go through kind of what our thoughts were about it?
Sure.
Okay. So if you look at the side that says students in the top left-hand corner, we're thinking it would be available to both, oh, there.
Oh, yeah.
It's not coming up there.
There it is.
There.
That it would be available to both boys and girls, grades 9 through 12. We actually had a sign up last spring, and we had, at that time, I believe we had 13 interested, but 2 of them would be seniors this year, so they would no longer, be able to participate next year. But so we had another person that added to the list this year. So we had 12 people interested in it and being in the sign up for it. Do you want to go on to the thing?
Sure. Some of the events or duties that we thought that the cheerleaders could help out with or do, of course, promote the fun and the spirit of the school. Football games, the home games, and both junior varsity and varsity games. We'd like to bring back maybe a homecoming routine during the homecoming football game. Do something, and usually the routines don't last very long, 5-6 minutes.
So they could still have their flag football.
Yeah.
But we could do a little
yeah.
routine in between there.
Yeah. Now that they're doing the Category 5 stuff at the basketball games, some of the home games, we thought that would be a good time for cheerleaders to help the student body cheer along with the basketball team. And the Category 4, some of the elementary kids. So we were thinking just home games and not away games. Also, the elementary school does a pet fest every now and then, and nobody's really leads that.
Well, Lisa Chevy's been kind of the one that takes over that position. She did one back in when they did it right before Christmas, and it was when they had that silent night thing in the gym for the basketball game. And so she comes and she kind of prepares it all. And I feel sorry for her that she has to do all that, and she has to lead everybody. She's out there leading everybody in the first grade, what's your number, and we thought that would be the perfect thing for cheerleaders to be able to take over is do that, because she also does the homecoming pep fest for the elementary school too. I mean, she does bring other students along. She'll bring along, students from different sports or whatever, but it would be nice to have cheerleaders in that.
Also, locker signs maybe. I remember getting, before a volleyball game or whatever, coming back from class or the next day, and there's a nice locker sign and, pep you up for the coming game that night. Also gym posters. I know Lisa does a lot of gym posters too, and maybe get some of the other girls to do it, but just to help promote spirit. We're also thinking that we'd only need 4 or 6 cheerleaders at a time. So if we've got 12 to sign up, they don't have to all. So we're not taking them away from any other sport or activity that they're doing. so that we don't have, you can't get 12 cheerleaders out on a basketball court, so we don't need that many. So that they, you know, based on their schedules with other things that they could, we'd somehow get some sort of schedule for them to not have to come to everyone if they didn't want to. Tryouts would be in the spring, and,
So if they tried out, would they be on the team? I mean, would they?
Well-
Yeah, I don't quite follow that,
Apparently, there's a no-cut policy at our school now, is that correct?
yeah.
So we
So
would.
it kind of, it's,
is there a policy or?
it's not written policy, but it has been kind of the practice.
So, because when I talked to Corinne about this, she informed me, because when we were kids, we tried out and, like, both of us, neither one of us made it the first year, and then the final, you know, our sophomore years, we made it, but, so, when I found that out, we thought, oh, that would be interesting, working with, you know, everybody, so we thought, you know, the possibility of maybe some of them are doing the JV games rather than varsity right away. Perhaps some of them won't feel comfortable right away starting to cheer. Maybe they are the ones that are in charge of the locker decorations and spirit signs in the gym for a while until they feel comfortable being out there in front of everybody. So.
When was the last time you had cheerleading? Casey was on the cheerleading.
Casey did it, I wanna say it was ninth grade, ninth for sure, yeah. Yep.
And did it stop because of lack of participation?
I think so.
With Casey, yeah.
And Mike Todd is here, that
Oh.
might be the person to ask.
Both that and then, the decision was to go to dance instead of,
Oh, I see.
instead of the cheerleading. Give the girls an opportunity to perform, you know.
So you didn't feel like we had enough people that would do both?
Really difficult to do both.
Okay, I was just curious.
Well, dance is a sport by Minnesota State High School League, right?
Correct.
Is cheerleading also?
No, it's a support activity is what it's called.
Okay, so it's no longer, and it's not.
It is.
It is.
And, yeah, you know, a little data, in our conference alone, there's 6 schools that still have cheerleading and
Okay.
5 that don't. There'll be 11 schools. And 1 school has dance and 10 don't. We're the only school in our conference that has dance, but our dance is part of another conference now, part of the Three Rivers Conference, but as far as the Southeast Conference goes, with all the other schools, we're the only one that has dance. And of those, so,
I guess one of the things that really, I remember vividly as an elementary school teacher, the year that Audrey's class was like a 6th grade, 5th and 6th grade class, Audrey Stone's, they just loved cheerleading, and they actually would do some of the Pep Fest things, like those 6th grade girls would go out there and cheer, and so I thought, well, this is like, they're like at that age where they would love that, and maybe they wouldn't anymore, I don't know, you know, but, you know, we did have 12 interested in it, so that was kind of encouraging to us, and those 12 kids probably need another outlet besides just sports. I was out for sports, but not very good at them, so I decided cheerleading was a better fit for me. So we just thought, why not give them the possibility if we can.
And I played all sports, and I was a cheerleader too, so it never interfered with me playing any sports, so.
And that's why we feel like we would, you know, do everything to try to avoid, you know, conflicting schedules with other sports, so that this would be like working in the summertime to try to, that's going to be probably the hardest thing, is trying to reteach all the cheers that have been lost over the years, you know, or learning new cheers, just because, you know, as kids we used to sit and watch the cheerleaders and learn the cheers, and now since we haven't had that in quite a few years, most of the people don't know the cheers anymore, so.
So would you do football, basketball, and volleyball?
We were just thinking football and basketball.
Okay. Boys and girls basketball.
boys and girls, yeah. And
Kate-
in the
Kate
past,
was
there used to
big
have
into-
wrestling, but there's only one wrestling tournament here, and, you know, to learn wrestling, she was for one.
Mhm.
She did what?
She still played volleyball and she
Choose
chooses
football, 'cause
Mm.
they don't.
They didn't.
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
everybody did that.
There are games there, there's a boys' game and a girls' game on the same night sometimes, and I know that happened to me because I played basketball and was a basketball cheerleader. And I just chose to play my basketball. And, but I really wasn't very good at basketball, so there was like 2 games, I think, and I chose one to do cheerleading and one to do basketball, so.
And perhaps that now they would have to probably play the sport, I would imagine, and then cheerleading would be an option, so.
But would you, two of you be the advisors, or are you just suggesting you need to get in?
Those have to be posted.
Yeah, I would imagine that would have to be posted.
Okay, but, I mean, you have someone in mind, or you have potential people, and it would be posted, and, so how did this come up with this money, $23.60 for her to decide?
That's actually in our master agreement.
Okay,
There is a cheerleading advisor position in there.
okay.
So that's where we came up with that. However, it was brought to our attention that after you hit 15 students, there's supposed to be an assistant. But I don't know that, when I looked at the assistant position, it said that was $2,687.02. So obviously, that must not be the same for cheerleading.
In the contract, the cheerleading got split out to each, individual season.
Right.
Because the
says-
cheerleading advisor for the assistant was when the cheerleading advisor was the advisor for the full year. And so that's,
Fall, winter, spring, it said, right, yeah.
yeah. I have never seen spring cheerleaders.
No, and that's what Lisa Shetty said too. She said, "Huh, spring cheerleaders." And I said, I don't know why I had the spring in there. Although, you know, practicing possibly in tryouts, but I'm not sure why they would need the spring.
And the other thing, the advisor fees were calculated assuming that the cheerleaders would attend the entire
Oh,
slate.
away games too.
Yep,
Yeah.
so that's also another, but that would be that's a contract thing that,
We didn't change the contract,
you can't just say, well, you're only doing the home game, so therefore you get half of this.
seems simple.
It seems simple, but it's not, because you can't just willy-nilly make that decision, because it's a negotiated agreement in the contract.
So, Quinn, do you see any issues or any comment on this?
And I was a cheerleader, but that was back in the Stone Ages. And my oldest daughter, my oldest daughter was also a cheerleader for a while, but also I have to say that she really pushed to get dance started. So that's the experience I've had, but if, given the druthers, they would rather do dance than cheerleading. I'm just, I see that promoting spirit and fun, and I'm not sure how much the students, in watching the other schools that have cheerleaders, I'm not sure how much the kids actually cheer with the cheerleaders anymore. Because I watched that with other schools, and I said, oh, they have cheerleaders, and then I watch them, the cheerleaders are doing a nice job on the stand, on the sidelines. But the cheerleaders are doing a nice job on the sidelines, and it may be the ones that I've looked at, but the crowd isn't cheering with them, they're cheering, and it's kind of separate from the crowd. And maybe you've been to other events where that hasn't been the case, but I'm not sure that this would be, I guess I'm conflicted.
Michael, any thoughts?
Well, so have you talked to, Todd, and have you talked to Lisa
Mhm.
about this? And-
Yeah, we talked to Fran and Todd and Lisa.
Okay.
What was their comments?
You want to
Todd,
say your
yeah.
comments?
Well, I mean, where I'm at is we moved away from the cheerleading to have dance. And if we're gonna have both, there's a cost that comes with it. There's a definite cost that comes with it, and is that something that the board wants to take on? I mean, that's where we moved from, at that point in time. Not to say that it can't come back, but, I would say a lot of schools are going away from cheerleading. There's just, for whatever reason. I think a lot of it is that the girls are involved with more things nowadays, and they just don't have that, they're involved with so much. The numbers just have gone down so much, and that's probably why they've gone. Stillwater High School, there's a big high school, they do not have cheerleading.
Well, I feel like cheerleading, perception, it's reality. It was an opportunity for an activity for girls, and now there are increasing competitive opportunities for girls. So when you did this interest inventory, did you do that, or was it part of a larger, because a year ago, in the spring, we usually have this conversation with Todd, when we've had other people come through and want to make a case for some extracurricular, some activity, and what's the interest level? What's the interest level currently when we're deciding? So how did you do that?
Todd asked us to put it in the announcement, so we did put it in the announcement that they could come and sign up in the office, in the district office, or not in Rose's office.
In the high school.
Yeah.
But if they had a whole slate of everything available to them, would those numbers be the same? You know what I'm saying? I mean, if you say, if we're gonna do all of these activities, how many of you want soccer? How many want hockey? How many want gymnastics? How many want cheerleading? When they're faced with all their choices instead of, does this sound like a interesting? I'm interested in the numbers.
Well, I will say that several of the girls were already in dance that wanted to be a cheerleader also. So they, we did talk to Erica also. I talked to Erica and I said, I don't want to step on your toes. You have a wonderful program going. We don't want to, overstep our boundaries. Is this something that you feel like we could do if we agreed to never interrupt your practices and, not take your girls away from your sport? And she was fine with it. She wrote back and said that she would support it if it was something that went through. So, but we were concerned about that because quite a few of the girls were on the dance team already.
I think in the past, with some things like soccer, we turned down the idea of doing it because it depends on the people that play in the sports and you can only support so many sports and have enough people playing them. This kind of falls into that same category too.
I am a former cheerleading advisor. And the practices, and that's the first thing that popped out at me, the practices, just a few after school when needed. If we're going to want to do something, we're going to want to do it with quality. So if we're going to have cheerleaders, we want to make sure they are really good representatives of our school. And that you need to have more practices for them to be better, because that's, and as you said yourself, they don't know the cheers,
Right.
They haven't had that experience. This isn't, even as an advisor of a group that had that experience and had wanted to be cheerleaders all the time and had been watching and had the skills, we still had 3 hours of practices every week to get them to the point where they were really representatives of the school.
Right.
So saying that there wouldn't be practices after school or because if you don't want it to conflict with sports, it'd have to maybe be before school.
Right.
But there would have to be practices every week, because.
Right, yeah, we realized that they would, but we would try to work around other
Yeah.
schedules. Yeah, it's absolutely gonna be needed if.
Yeah. Because it doesn't seem possible, but you don't understand how long it would take for everybody to get their arms straight and in the same angle. It takes a long time.
I'm not against it. I think it's a pretty good idea. The only question I have is the 12 kids. I mean, I just have trouble with how you're going to separate them. 5 good tonight, you know, and keep their interest in it all year round, you know. I'm not against cutting, but I'm not against not cutting. I think you get a group that, and like you said, you try out and you pick the best ones, and those are the cheerleaders. Unfortunately, not everybody's going to make the cheerleading squad this year. That's why you have a B-team squad or something like that. I'd like to see more of a detail on how that's going to.
Well, if we had, say, 10 that went out, or even 12, if 6 were not as good, then they would probably cheer the JV game.
Right, I get
And then
it.
you'd have the 6 that would be varsity.
Okay.
So you would have this, separation there, and they would all be allowed to cheer, if that's how
How
we
it's
want to do
different
it.
levels.
Right, okay.
And, and some of this, we've discussed, like with soccer, we had some child, was it last year, Todd, we had somebody that wanted to do soccer in Caledonia, and we kind of decided, okay, we want to give them that opportunity. So, it's like, do you want to do this, or no? Do you want to
You
give
didn't do
kids?
it. They wanted to bring.
Well, yeah, they
here.
did, right, they did, but I'm just saying, so if there's a way.
Can we unofficially have a cheerleading squad? By that I mean 2 kids get up in front of the group, or 6 kids get up in front of the group and start cheering. Would we allow that, Todd, or not at a basketball game?
That's a great question. Maybe. I mean, maybe. I mean, because right now we have a Category 5, and, as Lisa's working with the kids and coming up with some unique and creative things to do, because a lot of schools, again, you'll see more schools have football cheerleading, and they don't have the basketball cheerleading.
Right.
And so they are coming up with some cheers. If you've seen the ones where they do the little roller coaster thing, and someone gets up there, and so they're leading
No,
the cheer.
show us, Todd.
You do the one, what's that?
Yeah,
Sure. And then the other one, like the Austin does, the parting of the Red Sea, because they're all in red, and, the guy comes down with a cane. So that's someone that's leading that type of a cheer. So, if it's things that are appropriate and the kids are having a good time, we're all about the kids enjoying the experience in a positive and healthy way. There's no question about that. My big thing is, the background was, we kind of got rid of it because the numbers went down, and we ended up moving to dance, and definitely supported that. And, financially, you got to decide. You're talking about soccer, much different in the fact that it's a co-op, we're talking about this here, but it does come down to the bottom line, is the dollar piece you're going to have to, and can we, and will someone take it on too?
So this would fall under Lisa Shetty's into,
It would fall under activities, yeah.
What is the minimum number of cheerleaders you would like to see at each activity or event?
I would say at least 4.
These 4?
At least 4.
Okay.
I think when we were cheerleaders, it was usually 5. Did you guys usually have 5 when you were in the sizes?
I was the advisor in Rushford, so it was but when I was on the squad, it was 4 for JV, 5 for varsity. And then in Rushford, it was 6.
Okay.
So basically it comes down to is cost effective, can we afford to do it? And is there gonna be enough participation, and it's gonna take away from dance?
she says it won't.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's a concern, for some, and what I keep hearing is, we're putting our eggs in this basket for dance, do we want to try to divide them out? You know what I mean?
When does dance start, and when does it end?
It's a pretty short season, isn't it? It's like-
No, it's
actually pretty.
Is it a winter
Same as
season?
basketball.
Is it this?
Well,
They start before basketball.
They start before basketball, they
And,
start
you know, they end up a
October.
little bit before basketball, you know, ends, yeah.
Yeah.
But most of their meets are on Saturdays, it seems like, right? Dance, all of them.
Mhm.
All of them. So they're not in the middle of the week during the night, so when all
What if you-
basketball games are.
What if you went back and just looked at, like Todd said, maybe just football? And I'm not saying yes or no, but looking at the numbers, just trying to derive what the numbers would be just doing the football first, you know, and see if we do
And see
have
how it
the
goes.
numbers.
Yeah, go, and being like what you're thinking there wouldn't disrupt the dance part of it, but what you said, a lot of the girls are part of dance, and maybe they'd wanna do that to be ready for dance, you know what I mean? Because there's similarities,
Right.
right?
Right.
You know, so instead of just doing dance this month time, they would be doing cheerleading and dance, and they would have more, you know,
Right.
time to do similar events.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. And, you know, we talked about all those things too, about, well, and that was one of the reasons why with the uniforms, we were like, well, we could just do t-shirts and leggings, which would be, like I called, Source and Graphics, just said $15 for a t-shirt, and, you know, leggings you can get for $10, so, you know, it could be under $30 if we wanted it to be, if we wanted to try it, like you said, just try football and see how it goes, and see if, you know, and those were some of the things that we threw around too, when we were talking about it, and, you know, so I don't know if that would be more feasible than spending $100 per person, you know?
Yeah, and could it be a combined event where it's dance and cheerleading as one? No? I don't know.
No.
Just curious.
High School League is very specific about when dance can begin and the season length and what the girls can do, so.
But I mean, if it was cheerleading and dance, I'm talking like as far as the advisor, coach type person.
No,
I mean,
it's-
cost-wise,
it's-
but it has to be separated,
It's,
is what you're saying?
it's separate because it's separate in contract.
You know, I didn't know if you could have one person that did the whole,
No, it's two separate events.
well, one.
It really is, because dance is a sport,
Mhm.
it's classified as a sport, and cheerleading is classified as a support activity.
Just, you know, that's all.
Yeah.
So you're saying that a girl couldn't do both?
Oh,
No, it's,
Could.
You could,
it's a different sport.
it's a different thing, one support, one.
Erica she couldn't coach bowl
No,
and
no,
be
I-
preparing them for dance and call it cheerleading.
right,
That would be against the rules.
yeah.
Oh,
It'd be all
right.
season topic.
Yeah.
Right.
High School League would
But
have.
the girls could be on both,
Right,
with the fact.
and they could be doing dancing, right?
Right.
Kind of, I mean, some.
Well, I mean,
some do dan- I mean,
we
it's
did
not-
cheer, yeah, we did all kinds of routines, dance
Yeah.
routines as cheerleaders, so, but there again, and I don't know, Crane, if it was the same when you were a cheerleader, but like the seniors, like we taught, like Chris said, she didn't even know we had an advisor because she's younger than me, so she said that, I thought you guys just taught us we taught the routines as seniors and everything. I don't know if that's the way it was, when you were growing up.
It really depended on the advisors. Some advisors were, Cheryl Pedersen really cracked the whip, and we, it was harder then. And then when Judy Williams took over, she taught us her old cheers, which were fun. But it was very structured practices.
Okay.
And we did cheerleading camps, that's how we found
And we
the,
did too.
the,
But we paid for that out of our own pockets.
We
And
bought our
as well
own
as our
uniforms.
own uniforms,
Yeah.
yeah.
Remember that when Captain Casey was in too, you bought your own uniforms?
Yep.
You did?
Mm-hmm. Casey did. I could probably even go back and look at this.
Well, then when did they buy them?
I know
for
she
the
did
school?
because
the school had a
She
bunch
has,
of them.
she has her bottoms, she has her pants, and then she had a, top, and I think there was a t-shirt that they wore. She didn't do the skirt or anything like that, in case did it. Hers is more like a workout,
Mhm.
is what she had.
Any other questions? I don't know if we have to decide on this tonight.
No, it's just a discussion item tonight. Everything starts as a discussion item.
Is there anything that you guys want them to maybe get more information on?
Well, let's have you go back and, you know, look at have a distinct plan on the cheerleaders that can cheer. And if it's just gonna be football, what would the cost be on that?
For just football.
Yeah, so we have options.
Then that would drop the advisor's fee down to 700 something, because it would just be fall.
And then it wouldn't be the travel, I'm assuming, correct?
Well, the only
There'd be
thing
a
asked us to
playoff.
possibly put in travel just because if
you
they went to state, I mean, that was like the worst thing ever. Sitting there, I don't know if you went to that game or not, the state football game when we went to state that year.
Yeah.
Sitting there as a former cheerleader and wanting to like get out in front, like cheer and like get everybody going and saying, we need to be yelling defense right now or whatever, you know. And we had no cheerleaders. So kind of thought we should probably add a little to the travel
Well, you-
just in case if we would ever need that again.
Yeah, well, you won't have that.
Because I wanted everything considered,
Oh, yeah.
because you don't want to get blindsided and then
Right,
say,
and then,
well,
oh.
that didn't get approved, you can't do that.
Right.
Right, no, I'd rather, you're right, I have it all there, so. Okay. Well, if you wanna get that back to us, I can
Okay.
see what that number is.
And just so you know, the process is always, things come first as a discussion item, and then they, the next time move to old business, and that's when, the board would act on them.
That's fine. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. So. Okay, more updates, Fran?
Yeah.
What the heck?
Extracurricular, we've got the, if you could play the video, is that up there? We've got a robotic video. Where's the video?
Not really.
Do you have your email on that computer?
Not hers, no.
Oh, you don't have it on that one?
I don't have her email, no.
Well, no, is that your computer?
That's my computer.
Yeah, yeah, if Mimi sends you.
Oh, yep.
Yeah. Ann went home.
We go down to, enrollment, and then go back to.
Sure. Enrollment projections, we're predicting for the on-site, very modest growth. Is basically kind of flat. And then, for online, we're, also looking at, once again, flat projection. But the revenue will be increasing by 2%, as we know, since, the legislator voted for that. There is a possibility with this session, they're working to get, another percent added on for the following year, so it could be, 3% the following year, but we know that the revenue increase for this next fiscal year will be 2%. We also know that assets will continue, because that's something that, as a board, you're always told, okay, we have to reapply for the assets funds. The assets funds was a 2-year cycle, so we are sure that we have the assets funds for the next year as well. So with that, we can, the enrollment projections really are the revenue source. We're looking at some other possible funding changes with, special education, but that would help offset the, HVEC cost. So there could be a benefit there, which that all comes into play when we look at old business, that resolution that you guys need to pass tonight. Because we need to be looking at the enrollment and the projections of revenue when we really look at staffing. So that's why I wanted to bring them all up together.
Okay.
Do you have questions on?
I mean,
Yeah, so the
So the enrollment projections, I assume, are taken from rolling one class over to the next year and looking at the census?
Yes.
Or what we have coming in locally?
Locally, yeah.
And, should it be, or is it ever part of our strategy to see what else could we do to reach out to potential local students? I mean, I know the numbers are the numbers, but, you know, I always think we should maybe be tooting our own horn more locally to attract more students, rather than just saying, here are the numbers, they're flat. I mean, we can do cuts, or we can take action to bring kids in, or we can, you know, if there's any professional way, appropriate way to do that.
And that's, we used to do the, well, now we call it Education Matters, before I think it was called Insight, the school newsletter. Now that just goes to boxes, PO boxes within the school district. When it was Insight, we sent that to all neighboring households as well. And we decided to just do it for people within the district as a cost saving. If that's something as a board, you would like us to expand the number of households that get Education Matters, that could be a decision that's made, because Education Matters really does, it is a way for us to toot our own horn.
Well, I get
Because
stuff from
the
California
website,
all the time. I mean, I don't know if anybody else.
I just think it's a conversation that maybe in terms of strategic planning, I mean, it's not gonna change this discussion. You
Right.
presented the enrollment projections, but as part of a, what should we do, or can we do, or do we want to do going forward? You know, I learned some things at the convention that I think could apply here, potentially, in some of the workshops. So we'll talk about those
The
later.
other thing too is to improve our preschool.
Exactly.
I mean, free preschool.
Exactly.
Build it, because once kids come here as preschoolers, the parents fall in love with the district, see how good it is, and then they're here for 12 years, or however many years.
hopefully 12. Yeah.
13.
13 years, 12, 14, I don't know. And
I also was looking at the enrollment report, and it looks like, you know, from our projected or budgeted amount, you know, we were a little bit under, but I may be recalling this wrong. It looked like MNDA K-8 was creeping its way in the right direction. Summit, we lost a few students. I don't remember, the numbers are down, but I know there's always a lag in those. So how do those affect this discussion, or how do those trends month to month?
Well, the online, the marketing team is actually pulling the projections next week, as far as trying to look at what they think might happen with the new next generation classes that they're offering, and the advertising that they're going to be doing, letting people know about the next gen classes. And that has some impact on our budget, not as much as the local. The Summit numbers have actually gone up.
Okay, well then the report must be lagging by a month. So
Yep.
I don't think it looked like it was up and then a drop, maybe it's up again. But
This is next generation.
It's new courses created by K-12 for use in the online school. There's a 3-year rollout. Next year, they're rolling out 9th and 10th grade English and 6th through 11th grade math. There's going to be more differentiation built in. It's going to have more teacher toolkits as far as interventions that can be used. It's going to be more proactive with the student and providing the just right instruction, just right intervention for them so the teacher can turn things on and turn things off and assign things. So it's, if you remember what we talked about when the elementary one was the Pearson Science, so there was the different tracks in the science. So here's your science lesson, and here's the lesson if you're not quite getting it, here's the lesson where you're right on track, and here's the lesson if you're really getting this and you need some enrichment. That's the whole premise behind the whole Next Gen class, or to work in that same vein. So here's your standard, here's for the kids that are struggling with it, here's the kids that are right on target, here's the kids that need some enrichment. It looks very good. So we've got the classes that are getting implemented next year, and then the year after that, they're doing, I think we're slated for all of the English 6, 12, and then others, the rest of the classes. They're still trying to figure out the best platform to use for K-5.
So they feel that's gonna bring in more students.
Mm-hmm.
So how do they advertise these things and let people know that this is the real deal, the best and greatest?
And that's part of the marketing push that's coming out in February.
That's the K-12.
Mm-hmm.
So that's for all of K-12 schools.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything we can do separately? Little one-upsmanship kind of thing.
Maybe do it in our area.
And we are talking about those things that set us apart and make us different than the other K-12 schools in Minnesota. And for one of the schools, it's very easy to do the differentiation because Insight is credit recovery. That's not us.
Okay, any other questions? Michael, do you have some more? Very good? No.
Okay, are you
You ready?
okay?
Welcome to the first robotics competition and the 2016 Tournament Challenge First Stronghold. The Alliance quest is to breach the opponent's defenses, known
Buffering.
bar in position 1 is permanent. The defense in position 3 changes periodically by audit. Opponents are savvy and will be strategically selecting the remaining 3 defenses to strengthen their outer works while in line for their next match. There are more than 10,000 possible field configurations. Robots start in the neutral zone and may have 1 boulder each. Additional boulders will be placed on the midline and in each castle. Alliances may assign a spy bot to start in their opponent's courtyard and a human player to occupy the spy station to signal intelligence about activities on the far side of the field to their castle. The first 15 seconds of the match, the robots are defenses and scoring boulders in gold. During the following 2-minute and 15-second teleoperated period, human drivers remotely control their robots. They retrieve boulders, overcome opponent defenses, and score boulders in gold from their opponent's courtyard. The first time a robot fully crosses a defense, some of the base lights will turn off, indicating that defense's strength is reduced. That defense is considered damaged. Once any 4 of the 5 opponent defenses are considered damaged, the outer works are breached and the Alliance receives points. Human players deliver boulders to their secret passage through the castle wall. Alliances may have only 1 robot at a time in their own courtyard to defend their castle. As boulders are scored, the tower loses strength. Once enough boulders are scored in the opponent's tower, the opponent's flag will drop, indicating the tower has been weakened and can now be captured at the end of the match by surrounding it. During the last 20 seconds, robots may extend to reach the tower rung and scale the tower for additional points. If an alliance captures their opponent's tower at the end of the match, their flag is raised and the alliance earns more points. The alliance with the highest score at the end of the match earns the win. Step into your castle, proudly raise your team standard, and face the challenge ahead at this year's first robotics competition, First Stronghold.
And that's the quest for this year's, the senior high team, and they were here working yesterday. And it was fun to get in there and talk to them as they were planning how they were going to make it through all of those different obstacles and how high their robot was going to be, because there's one obstacle that's what was it, 16 inches high, so they know that they want to make sure that they can always get through that obstacle, so they're looking at different ways of building it. It really is it's going to be a fun activity for them, and it's they're getting other people involved, coming in, other engineers, to really think about the best way to build it, because this is a different challenge this year that's going to require the robot to do a lot of different things. And so it's not just one level where they're going to have to throw the ball. They're going to have to think about throwing that boulder into the tower and really planning for all the different obstacles. So it's a more complex task than they've had in the past.
When and where do they compete?
Meet or compete?
Meet, well, I say meet here. But
Right across the hall. I was over
Yeah.
there seeing if there were, and
Yeah.
it's a small subgroup tonight, so
Okay.
there's not.
No, but compete, so when do they have to be ready to go and where?
It's a 45-day build, so it goes until like February 20th or so, and they'll have a Seven Rivers Coalition, which is just this region, some teams in lacrosse and Caledonia up, and they'll have a small competition in lacrosse, and that's practice, and then we're in the Minneapolis tournament in April, after the band trip.
Okay.
So, the week after the band trip, 6th or 7th, something like that.
And when they get done with the build time, then it's all got to get sealed up, and they can't touch it until the competition.
Yeah, there's stuff, I mean, they have to do, you saw those banners, I mean, they have to do a lot of stuff, but this year, even just to test, there's like 10 different things that they can configure, so if they were gonna try to do all those, someone would have to build them all. And so for the tournament in the Seven Rivers, we actually have, because we're part of that group, we have to contribute some of those obstacles. So if anybody's handy, we can use up building obstacles. I don't know. It's a lot of work to set up a field like that.
Are teams put together for the competition?
You mean alliances?
Yeah,
Yep, 3 units.
and you don't know who your line.
Do you remember, Ty? I
Well,
think you might know
What happens
in the
is
day.
it changes. You don't know, it's truly random, and so, maybe a day ahead of time, you're gonna know, okay, the first one, but, you could be competing against someone that the second round, you're gonna have them on your alliance. So as you go through, what is it, about 6, 7 rounds or so, and you'll be getting points throughout there, and then at the end, the top teams are the ones for the finals, and then they select people for their alliance. So if you're really good for someone, you may not have scored a lot of points, but you really do something well, they may want you on the alliance for the finals. That make sense?
So the kids will
So
be.
they don't know, right away.
They're called scouts, and so at the tournament, the kids this year, it's gonna be really important. They'll probably have iPads or something and be walking around, taking notes of all the team and scouting to understand which defenses they should have against them or who they wanna be on their team and all that stuff. So, yeah.
again, that's what's so cool about robotics, there's so many different facets to it, and you need someone that really understands the whole game to be able to say, I want, you to do this in our line. If you're really, really good, you can say, hey, I just want you to do this and you do this because our robot can do this. Some of the really good teams kind of do that. They help direct the other teams in the line.
It did take a while just to figure out what the team's strategy was, because it's so complicated. But I think they have a strategy.
So when was the reveal for this?
The 8th?
Of
January, yeah.
So they've been getting together and strategizing.
Yep, that night we had a design dinner where we had engineers come, and looking back on it, maybe we shouldn't have had him come so early. We didn't think it was gonna be so complicated, but, we kind of threw out ideas and tried to talk about stuff, and then the next week, they really dove in and decided on the design. And we also printed out the field and put it on a piece of paper and had the kids kind of act out different parts of different robots and try to do different strategies to see, who always won or how many points they could get, what was the most useful approach. So, think through things, because it is really complicated. I don't understand it all yet, and yeah, I don't know if I ever will. I hope some of the kids do by the time we get there, so.
They did good last year, so. Any other?
Dance, going through, this last weekend, they played second again. And so February 6th regionals and state is February 12th and 13th. I think this weekend is conference for them, or was that last weekend?
For dance, last weekend was conference.
And so they played second in the
They
conference.
played second in the conference. And again, that's a Three Rivers conference. They allowed us to be in there just for dance.
So next means they qualify for state?
The February 6th. February
Oh,
6th
okay.
at Dover is, if they are in the top 3 there, they qualify for state, and state is February 12th and 13th.
And they've always been in the top 3 so far, right? That's awesome.
Yeah, they're in there with Shield. Going on, junior varsity has also medaled at every meet, so that they're doing very well. Boys basketball are doing well. They've got a 12-3 record so far as when I did this on, 10 games are left in the regular season, and their tournament starts February 16th. They are really playing well and playing like a team.
They're really fun to watch.
Yeah.
Really good. If you guys have a sense of game, come, because they're fun.
Girls basketball, they're currently 5th in the conference, they have 10 games left in their season. Their season gets done a week after the boys. But the highlight is Kelly Jervis scored 1,000 points, so that's really cool. Been on KTTC a couple times now. Wrestling, the team has a 4-3 record. We've got 3 boys listed on varsity, but more than that are on the team on JV. Because I know Tanner Craig, but I couldn't find any JV stuff on the website.
I think there's 7 altogether.
And official, Joey.
Chris.
Yeah.
Is it Chris
Chris.
boy, I
Yeah.
think, down
Okay.
there.
Yeah, because I've seen Joey Fishel's ear getting a nice case of cauliflower ear. The gymnastics, Jesselyn Knudsen is on our co-op gymnastics team, and she's been in the paper quite a bit for doing well. Junior high knowledge bowl, regional meet is on the 20th, and we've got 2 teams that advanced to regional. The third, Houston 3 just missed getting regionals by 3 places, because the top 12 teams make it.
Is that it? So once they go to regionals, is it done?
Yes, with junior high, regionals is done, so the 20th will end their season, and they are hopeful. At the sub-regional tournament, Houston placed 4th, that's because 3 teams tied for 1st. So, but in the round robin, Houston won, placed third. So it's just one of those, if they've got a good day and the questions come in areas where they've got their expertise, it's not many points between Houston one and the top team, so that can change quickly. And Houston, the Senior High Knowledge Bowl had 2 round robins so far, and they're in second place overall of all the A schools in the region, so they're doing well. And, okay, Houston, Houston too is also doing well. They're just starting their conference play as well, so that's Knowledge Bowl is going well. They got their sub-regionals in March and states in April. And then the 1X play, their director, Greta Getting, is very hopeful. So this Saturday, they will travel over to Rushford. So if you have a chance this Saturday, Greta didn't know yet last Friday.
9:45 they perform.
9:45.
They're the second performance of the day.
And so it's open to the public?
It is open to the public, it's free, so, you know, yeah, they're the second one. The public performance at the school is next week, the third.
And Greta said that they have been off script since December 7th. And she said a lot of other plays are just getting cast at that time, so she knows what this is. It's gonna be good. But once again, at Rushford, Fillmore Central and Rushford will both be there, and they're perennial powerhouses in 1X. So, and then I think, can you scroll? Did I have speech? Speech is just starting, so more will come with that at the end of the year. But I know that you asked for kind of mid-year update. So here's the mid-year update with extracurricular. Next time you'll get the mid-year update as far as the goals from each place.
Do we have anybody playing hockey this year?
No.
Just, you know, I feel a 5% decision.
I won't take it.
No, I have a
personally, Joe.
preference being at.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure.
One question about sports. Do we have anybody who's ever done cross-country, or do we have anybody who does cross-country?
Yeah, for about 2 weeks.
Oh, and then they stopped?
We have had in the past, though, had some kids that are cross-country, every year is different. I'm thinking a while.
Years and years ago, yeah, it wasn't, I don't know, about 4 years ago, we had a kid that really wanted to, encourage them, and decided that was
It is, cross country is a great sport, great activity, and, yeah.
Very tiring.
What?
Yeah, very tiring.
Okay, any other questions on enrollment or extracurricular? Ben, you're up again.
Okay, the long-term facility maintenance update.
Well, what about revenue sources and assumptions?
Oh,
Yeah.
that was right with enrollment projections.
Okay.
I put those together.
All right.
Long term?
Pat Weir
Thank you.
and, thank you. Pat Weir.
Should want to stay, you guys?
I'm sure we don't want to say that. You get some shoes for you?
Yeah. We need them. Go ahead.
Pat Weir from IAE came today to look at the project. Steve Musser, who is our environmental consultant, hasn't been successful in finding anyone else to really look at the asbestos abatement within the elementary building, and to write the...
It's sad and neglect.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Oh, that was you?
Steve Musser doesn't write the abatement plan. He has to contract out to do that, and so he reached out to IAE to do that, and as they were looking at it, they had a lot of questions, and we were looking at the best way to do it. That is, not one that's going to break the bank, but still, aligned to what we need to do legally to abate the asbestos. So there were some things that he brought up, and he did bring up the boiler that needs to be tested. They did talk about, the need for the time to do it. The way the asbestos is in the paint in the elementary school, and it's on concrete. So the only way to remove it is to basically, power wash it off. And so they will have to put a rubber mat down in the hallway with the poly sheet over the top of it to ensure that the floor does not get any water damage, which does add a cost to the abatement. And even if they do the bagging in the classroom, he needs to make sure that less than 10 square feet need to be bagged, otherwise they have to do a containment in every classroom. He does know that the hallways will need to be totally contained. Looking at the bulkhead, it depends on how that bulkhead within the classroom is going to get attached to the ceiling as to whether or not there needs to be, whether they can do that with the bagging, or they need to have the total containment system in each of the classrooms. And he did say that that type of asbestos, since it is so problematic, takes a great deal of time. And I looked at him and said, you do realize we're trying to get this all done in the summer, and the abatement is not the main part of the project. The main project is installation. And I said, how much time are you thinking? And he said, about a month. And I think they must have turned green, because he said, we can do with containment, if we get the basement floor done, we can have people working in the basement while we contain the main floor. So he said it needs to have a situation where there's a lot of orchestration between the abatement people and the contractors, so they know exactly, in the room that they're bagging, exactly which small areas need to be abated, and so they can come through and abate once and know that every spot that needed to be abated has been abated, and those spots that don't need to be abated have been left alone. He's going to talk to Steve Shell, who is the UNESCO engineer that's in charge of that.
It sounds like a disaster waiting to happen. I mean, with all the things you just said.
I know, and that's why I said, you do realize I have to talk to the board tonight, and I said, do I just start this conversation with don't kill the messenger?
I'm not saying that, it just sounds to me like a recipe for disaster.
Right, which is why I'm going to be contacting Steve Shell tomorrow and just say, okay, what is the plan to make sure that all the communication happens, so that when the abatement people come in, we know exactly what areas need to be abated, exactly where those are, so that there is no room for error. Where is that plan going to be as far as the lights, as far as the false ceiling hookup, as far as the support for all of the ductwork? I need to know that each of those spots can be in the plan, so that that can go to the abatement people and we can have the entire timeline. The other point that you need to know is that because this is at such a late date and the bids need to come in by the 26th and we're opening the bids on the 29th, I looked at the guy from IAE and said, so when could you get this bid? And he said, maybe by the end of February if the cost isn't too, if the cost hits a certain litmus amount, then they have to go out and it's 2 weeks beyond that. So we said worst case scenario, end of February. Okay,
Is this
Now-
spot abatement?
what?
Is this spot abatement, or is it whole?
This is
During the
all
block?
spot abatement. The classrooms with the bagging is definite spot abatement. We think we can do the 3-inch by 3-inch abatement because the only thing we need to do is put in the light in those areas. But then we do have to look at the bulkheads that are going in the hallways. We're looking at strip abatement. That's why the hallways would need to be a containment area.
Look, a number of the contractors during the walkthrough were told about this spot abatement, and they were all going, how are we supposed to know exactly where we're gonna put our hangers and all this stuff ahead of that point?
Yeah,
There were a lot of questions about that.
And all of that has to be spelled out, because the only way this will work is if we know, as soon as the contractors get selected from that bid process, that contractor has to really be working with the engineers and the design people and the MLA people, the EBI people, as far as, okay, this is the way it's been engineered, this is the way it's been designed, exactly where do we need to put this? So all of that is specified, because that's what I need to talk to Steve about tomorrow.
when you're talking 2 different entities and you're talking date, timeline. So we're gonna get the bids and the abatement information approximately the same time,
No, it's a month after.
month after. But
The
yeah,
abatement
the, so the abatement, once they get the bids and who we pick, that's gonna determine what exactly needs to be taken care of, correct? Because the people that win the bid have to give the abatement people the information they need to find out the locations that this has to be done, so they can give us a proper bid on what actually needs to be done. Correct?
Or are the contractors just gonna go through and physically mark with paint or whatever exactly each point that has to be abated? Is that how it's gonna work?
That's how I want it to work, because I want nothing left to chance. I'm not sure what kind of strings I'm gonna have to pull to make that happen, but that's the only way I see it working.
So are they gonna color code their markings, and the electrical's gonna do this, ventilation, heating, plumbing? They're each gonna have their own color and just mark everything?
Well, with the abatement process, you're just looking at this area is gonna have a hole, so it needs to be abated. The abatement people don't care what's getting drilled there, all they care is that this is one of the squares they need to abate.
Well, no, but the contractor's gonna wanna know who's drilling where and putting what, so that things just don't end up being in the same spot, and then it's like, oh, that's not gonna work.
That's one of the things I'm going to talk to with Steve Stone.
And maybe UNESCO,
Yeah.
because they should be managing this.
Yeah, so that's what was
I
my
mean,
question, there
it
was no
shouldn't be-
UNESCO guy here today, person?
It shouldn't be you, Trish, though.
No,
It should be
there
them.
should have been a UNESCO person at
Because
this
Brian told me he was
today.
gonna be here tonight.
Because they're the ones that have to coordinate, or
Mhm.
should be
Not you.
coordinating the communication.
That's
Not
how
I
we pay
think-
them.
Mike is coming February 2nd, not tonight.
Yeah, but he should, if we're paying these guys to coordinate everything and to be this, in charge of everything,
Well,
they're the
that's-
ones that
that's
should
why
have
I'm
been here
calling.
and taking care of it. It shouldn't even be on your back, Brent. It should be their responsibility.
And they-
And all you
they
should
know
be doing
that.
is reporting.
They
All
know
you need to be
that.
doing, yeah, they know. Let them
And
take
they,
care of it.
they should know who to communicate
Yeah.
with the
Don't-
contractors and the abaters. And
We're not the
so who
first-
called this meeting? Was this Steve Musser, or who contacted Pat Weir? So how did this meeting happen today?
Yeah.
Steve Musser contacted Pat Weir to do the walkthrough to get the information necessary for a quote, and then contacted Steve Shell that he was now working with IAE, and then Steve called me, Steve Shell called me.
Why did they call
Should have been
UNESCO?
here. Somebody should.
Somebody from UNESCO should be notified and have them come down and do it, not you. Right?
Anyway, that.
I was here,
Okay,
I
well-
was dealing with it.
I would pass it.
It's just, I want you guys aware of what's going on, and, I don't want anyone blindsided.
Well, when does the decision made, when the timeline gets drawn out and the start of the next school year is approaching, when do we need to start talking about what do we do if we don't have a school? That, I mean,
No, and that's something that I talked today about with timelines, and we have to start school the day after Labor
The
Day.
UNESCO
But-
is well aware of this whole scenario.
Yep,
and then
UNESCO is,
they
and
need to
we're is,
go with,
and, with the timeline, because this is abatement, and it has, we could be using health and safety money, and I know that we could look into that, and I will, talk to Patty coming over to see if that has any impact on the existing bonds that they're already doing.
So this wasn't included in the budget? They didn't realize it was asbestos, or what?
They had some asbestos in the budget. They were hoping that the bids would all come in at the same time. We started working originally in our meetings this fall with a guy named Jerry. Can't remember his last name. I can't remember his firm. Sorry. But Jerry was at those meetings, and he was going to do all the write-up of the plan for the bidding. And then he backed out, I guess, about a month ago. I did not know that. And
for the
then,
bidding for the abatement?
yeah,
So you
to write the plan for it.
They told us they never went over budget. They always come in under.
Right.
So I'm not concerned.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think at the same time, I think you need to get.
Right, at this
UNESCO.
point, I mean,
You
there
need to
should
get all-
be-
If you haven't talked to him, you need to talk to him, Chris.
I talked to Steve a little bit today, but now after talking to Pat, I'm talking to
Yeah,
Steve
you need to
again
talk to
tomorrow.
him, get it lined up, and you need, tell him the concerns that we have, like Mike Lee said, what if?
Yep.
You know,
We
these
just have to-
timelines need to be specific, and what happens if we don't have a school available to start when we need to start?
And Steve Musser did say that a lot of times in these, the bids, the school can put in timelines, and if the timelines are not followed, there are
Consequences to the contract.
financial
Well, they should
consequences
be.
to the contract.
We talked about that in the past, Todd, you remember we talked that, Gary? As
And I-
far as timelines,
That
and we need
definitely should be a
to
part of it.
put it in
Yes,
there.
It still doesn't negate that we may
Yeah.
have to put up a modular,
Right, but then there's a cost to us, and that's what we need to have on the system. That-
worst case.
Yep.
Bring that up to UNESCO, Corinne.
Mhm.
Tell them that, you know, we're looking at these two things, because what if, like Mike Lynn said, we have to do a module for temporarily, who's covering that cost? You know, all that needs to be laid out ahead of time.
Back up the picture.
There's ways,
I
but
don't
still there's,
know that we have to talk about it yet, but you can't keep,
you want to let it lay it out there. You know,
enough
what if?
for that.
No, there's just, I really wishing for some pixie dust today.
I think you need
And
to, let us know what they said, if you know.
And I did look at them and say, if the asbestos is that hard to get off, why are we moving it?
Mhm.
Oh,
And they said, well, you're drilling into it, so therefore you have to, and, yeah.
it's not an option, we've been through that,
Many
down
times.
that road many
Yeah,
times
many
before.
times.
Basically, they're just abating it where they're gonna make.
Drill holes.
Drill a hole,
Yeah.
that's
They're
why
still
it's
gonna
like
be
3 inch
asbestos.
squares.
Oh, sure, and that's why the first person that gave us the quote for what he thought it would probably take to abate the building, he was doing the quote based on removing all the asbestos from all the ceilings, and that's where he came up with 300,000. And that's why I kind of giggle about 300,000, because that seems to be the number that everything is.
Well, through UNESCO, let's not, well, see what they have to say, and then, you know, tell them our concerns, and, you know, like Mimi said, and Michael, we will all say, hey, you guys, and tell them, you know, they need to be more part of this, to be honest with you. You shouldn't be the one dealing with this
They're
crap.
taking over the ownership of these things, so
Yeah.
we expect them to do their job.
And I appreciate what you're doing, Corinne, don't get me wrong, and you're here, yes, but the reason we hired them is for specifics, and this is one of them.
And if they don't hear everything that's going on, how are they gonna know what's happening?
Well, that's, Pat Weir was going to, reach out and call Steve Shaw tonight, and so that's why I was going to call him, see what had been decided.
I would like to see a written plan for that abatement.
And then is the boiler jacket something different? That's not just a little abatement, spot abatement thing, that's a
No,
containment thing.
that will be part of the
Big bag.
quote from AIE.
Okay.
And
Big bag.
the other thing is, with windows, since we are removing some of the windows in the high school, found out that some window caulking has asbestos, so they're going to be testing that as well.
Shouldn't they replace the windows?
Yeah, they-
Or are these
that
might
should-
not?
Huh?
We don't know if there's abatement, they have to, I mean,
So
Possibility.
it's a positive,
Yeah.
they're just checking.
I'm sure there's.
It wasn't that long ago, those windows.
Well, and the windows in the, what will be the DPD room, are the windows and those.
Oh,
are the-
yeah, here, okay.
Yeah, it's the windows here, not
I
the
was
windows
talking-
at the
I
elementary.
thought I
I'm
was
sorry,
talking
I
about the
moved,
elementary.
I moved school,
That's why I was.
yeah,
But you wouldn't think these would, I don't know.
we don't know, that's,
Maybe
yeah, I
years
think
ago,
there is a
asbestos
question
been
mark
taken
there.
out of that market. But anyway, I'm sure they'll test it. Okay, moving right along. Any other questions on that? Okay, good. Whole business items for discussion and approval, resolution. Directing the administration to make recommendations for reduction in programs and positions, and reason therefore. Okay.
I'll move.
Second.
Discussion.
I would just like to have, as part of the discussion, should it come to the point where we're going to need to be talking about reducing staff, that we talk strategically about what else can we do to increase revenue as part of this.
and we have been since, the beginning of December, looking at licensure, looking at, who's tenured, who's not tenured, and we have to follow that first, and then looking at their different placements and making sure that they're, not negatively impacting any one place.
But at the same time, I think we need to look at what can we do to increase enrollment. I mean, when I talk, about our school and when I'm at work, I mean, most of the people I talk to wish they could have kids in Houston. So I think a lot of people around us don't realize what we have. If they don't, or don't know enough about what we have to offer. I mean, even in local schools around us, so.
We also have to be careful that we don't look like we're trying to pillage those neighboring districts.
I'm gonna say we can't even let them know about the opportunities they
You
can
don't have
have.
to pillage to talk about opportunities.
Yeah, but it's about opportunities that they could have here.
We're not giving signing bonus.
No, there are no signing bonus.
I say, there's buses from other districts that come right into our towns.
Yeah. Yeah, there is, so. Anyway.
Thank you.
Get those robotics.
Yeah, if there's a lot of kids on that, build them barricades. No, but I mean, I think it's something to talk about.
Definitely.
Okay. Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay, MSHSL Foundation grant request.
Okay, we've got that in the packet.
We've done this every year, right?
Yep.
Or what?
Todd, you wanna speak?
Yeah, may I just add to this? I talked to Lisa, she put this together, did a great job, but I think we can ask for more money. So I would just as soon, because you'll want the the grant in its entirety to approve. I think we'll be okay if you approve it next time. We may have to send the grant up first and then just say, board meeting will be on this date. It'll be okay, because we don't meet as a foundation until after that next board meeting anyway, so we'd be okay. But there's some more material that I know we can put on there to get the dollar amount up. We might as well get as much money as we can from the grant. It'll be just good coaching material, but it's a
But
great idea that you have.
right now, it just says 487, so how do you want this, this
So
change?
what we would do is, she's looking at monthly coaches meetings and talking about certain books and getting the material, and so, you know, either drill specific books for sports, and so we can add that on to the material that we'd like to purchase for each of those meetings, and so my guess is we can get that to up to $1,500, you know, maybe we don't get it all, maybe we get 1,000, but that's more than the 487, so you can just, you've seen it this meeting, the next meeting, approve the grant, you know, it's gonna be updated, the grant will be updated the next time you see it. Does that make sense?
So we are not to add.
So we're not.
I would say
acting on it,
not,
just
well, 'cause,
discuss.
yeah, I'd say let's wait to act at the next meeting, if you wouldn't mind, because then we can update it and put more material on, and you'll be okay, even if you act on it the next meeting in February, and if it may say February 1st, but they'll be okay.
February 1st.
What's that?
That's not a problem.
It won't be a problem if we say that the board meets at that time, as long as we get the grant to them. So we'll submit the grant to the State High School League Foundation and put a note on it that the board will have their resolution saying they approve the grant at their next meeting, which is in February. They won't have a problem with that as long as they get that. They won't give us any money unless the board has that.
Until it's approved, basically.
Correct.
So you can apply.
But we'll
for
be
the
okay, you know, if that's okay with the board, and we'll submit it ahead of time so we meet the deadline, because that is hard and fast, because I'm on the committee and I make sure that's a hard and fast date.
So everybody fine with that, just to table it?
But we're gonna, well, we're not, yeah, we're just
Just
looking at
take-
it, but we're not acting on it
Not
until
acting
next
on this
time.
time.
Correct.
Does this include, like, robotics coach too? Can it include some training for that?
It absolutely can. There's some books in this, you know, how to deal with youth and athletics, and there may be some overlap. The why we play piece, I think, would be very appropriate for anyone that's working with youth, very much so.
And then the, just, and I don't think this is applicable to this discussion, but, you know, like, it would be great for the cheerleading advisor, for some of these coaches meetings, I don't know what is considered a coach versus, like, somebody who coaches knowledgeable or one-act play. Are they included in the coaches meeting, and are they included in this Minnesota State High School, but they're not in the Minnesota State High School?
One act definitely is.
So they're included in this too, or I'm just wondering, so the reason I'm asking this is because I see various different coaches, some sports, some one act, you know, my kids are in pretty much, or have been in everything at some point, and some coaches do a lot better than other coaches on various different things. Somebody's strength might be scheduling, and these 10 people over here don't schedule very well at all. And, you know, this person might be really great at team building. It would be great to see some of more education or team building, or even just sharing across the coaches, because I see some good things in, like, one act or in speech or something like that would be great to have in basketball or volleyball, or some things in basketball and volleyball that would be great to maybe have in one act. But as a parent, it's kind of hard. I mean, and I know there's flexibility for each coach to be different, but it'd be great if we could take some better
I
action.
appreciate those comments, because that's very true. And a piece of, you know, when Lisa and I were talking about this, you know, I talked about skill building. We may get a book on basketball, a book on football. They can come together. How do you develop skills, you know, in your sport, in your activity, whether it's speech, whether it's robotics? Very appropriate. I think that's good sharing stuff, and I think that's something that could very easily be done, is to invite that group too. And we want to get the younger coaches too, the C-team coaches, so it's not just the head coach, I think the overall program, we can do a lot of growing in, and we should be learning all the time, and we want our kids to get better, we should be getting better as the professionals too, so appreciate that. I think that would be good to invite those as well, because you're right. Someone may be good at this area, and they can expand it and extrapolate it to other areas as well.
And the high school league has done a nice job of putting coaching resources, and the coaches do have to go through the different modules online in order to be a head coach.
We watched
Right.
it as a school
Correct.
board
Yeah.
last
Well,
year.
and I think what Amelia's saying is making sure that when you look at getting these dollars for this, let's look at everything possible.
Yeah, and that-
Lay it out there. Like you said, Todd, yourself, and I think you kind of picked up on it, and that's why you red flagged it, and saying, hold it. Let's see what else we can get. Let's maximize it. If there's training, whether it be in the knowledgeable, whether it be in robotics, other things that we may have not ever looked at. We may have only looked at, well, what about this? Let's look at the whole group and see what we can,
Yeah, someone could make some big money on, how to coach one-act plays or speech for high school kids. I've not seen a lot of material out there, but I think it's appropriate. I think that would be
but
great.
some material
Tim?
may apply
It
to
could
both.
be, it could be dealing with angry parents,
Well,
or
there-
how to
absolutely.
schedule an Outlook.
Mhm.
I mean, there's stuff that's applicable to everything.
Absolutely,
You
and
know.
some of those books are there, yep, absolutely.
Okay, well, let's see what we can come up
Great,
with on
so we're
that.
just we're gonna add as much stuff
Yep.
as we can, and there's a little flexibility with those dollars, and we have some dollars from last year that are still, in the pot for us to purchase some of those things, and especially with our youth programs, to get more video on that scale, and how to deal with those, how to deal with angry school board members and stuff, yeah, I get it.
That wasn't one of the books. Get parents. Just kidding.
That's what I meant to say. Freudian slip or something.
Okay, well, thanks, Don. We'll let that go. Policies for second reading?
We went through all of these. I did add, Ann did add Tina Barnett. There is a section that has been removed where it says that if the complaint involves the human resource officer, the superintendent would take the complaint, except if the complaint is the human resource officer, the human rights officer, that is the superintendent. And so we took that clause out, and then what I added is that if the complaint involves the human rights officer, the complaint would go to Tina Barnett, the 504 coordinator, who will immediately notify the school board. And so those two letters got put into one, so you're going to get contacted if it's a complaint about me right away, and that was one of the stipulations in the existing policy. The other thing you asked me to look at is, as far as legislatively, with the bullying prohibition and the hazing prohibition, whether those needed to be in the handbooks in their entirety. The hazing prohibition, the way the statute is written, it does need, there's not a case for condensing it in the handbook. So the hazing will need to be in the handbook. So, but other than that, all of those are now, I think, to the point where everybody's labeled, and it's all up to Hoyle. Hoyle, the car guy. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, let's lay it on the table. I move that we approve the policies as listed. 102, 402, 410, 413, 414, 415, 514, 521, 522, 526, and 528.
Okay, a motion, you got a second? Second by Mike Delaney. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you. New business? Don't have any listed there. Announcements?
And actually, we should rarely have new business. It should all be in the old. Just the legislative breakfast moved to February 20th. So if that date now works for someone for whom the 6th did not work, let us know. If the 20th no longer works for someone for whom the 6th did work, let us know. And it's old to me. And last week was professional recognition week, so.
I recognize that.
Definitely, they provide a very vital service for the students and the staff within the school district. Talk about unleashing the heroes in your midst.
Yeah.
Parents.
Okay. Anything else on that?
Important events, I got notification on Friday night that, the Office of Civil Rights, in evaluating this entire complaint, found all allegations groundless.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good.
So I will be forwarding that to all of you as soon as the letter arrives here, so that we can do the election. Again, I want to thank the other members of the staff who helped with that process. So I let them know right away that, yeah,
It's a good thing.
yes, it is.
Okay. Is that it on that part?
On that part,
Okay, meetings and committee updates. As you all know, as Joe would have alluded to, we all went on vacation last week. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Not quite Todd, but still been a good gesture. And we went to the leadership conference. Corinne, Mike Lean, Ron, and myself were there. We had a good few days. And we go around the room and kind of bring you up to date on what we had the opportunity to go see. I don't know if you want to start, Corinne, or Mike Lean, you want to?
I thought that the keynote on the first day, really provided some interesting insight into really, looking at different ways to address the needs of our students. And then the breakout sessions that I'm sure that Ron and Mike Lee have their notebooks there and we're taking notes, so they will add to that, I'm sure. The breakout sessions that I went to, one was put on by White Bear Lake and talked about their convocation, which is their back-to-school in-service. And I got a lot of really good information and good insight into how to really start the year off on a very positive foot. And I'm looking forward to planning the back-to-school in-service with that. And then I also went to one on the early childhood initiative and making sure that we have the screening. And I felt good about what we are looking at right now to put into place, especially for the online for the fall. And after going to that breakout session, I know that we're using the resources that have been provided by MTV. So I felt good about where we are. And then Friday's breakout session was when I presented, so I'm hoping it went well. And then the keynote at the end. I like the end keynote better than the beginning keynote, just because he talked about sometimes we've got so many choices that you can't decide on anything. And I think sometimes we are trying to be everything to everyone. And when you try to be a jack of all trades and a master of none, you end up being a master of none and a jack of not many. So I think that's maybe something that we need to look at as far as moving forward, figuring out, okay, where are we going to really put our where are we going to put our effort? Where are we going to put our time? What things do we really feel are vital for our kids here? And I personally think helping them learn those problem-solving skills and the technology that they're going to need to be citizens of the 21st century is absolutely right. There's my comment.
Okay, Michael, you wanna?
Ron.
Ron, okay. I like that.
Well, I went to a couple of breakout sessions. I always kind of try to go to things, I guess, I end up going to things where I say, how could we do a few more things? And I went to one on health and wellness, and basically they just talked about some of the things that their schools, their staff and administration were collaborating on to kind of bring health more to the forefront. Good food practices, good exercise, things like that. And they just talked about a lot of the little functions they have that really don't all happen right at school, but on weekends. And getting all the teachers and everybody involved in the fact that health is for everybody, not just the students and not just the staff, but everybody. So, brought back some information on that. I'll probably go bend somebody's ear on. And a lot of brochures and stuff out there to look through. Went to a school finance update by Tom Melcher and learned a little more about school finance, which I still don't know anything about, but it's fun to listen to him because he sure seems to know it. Went to a session on how your local public library and school can collaborate, and there's a lot of grants and material out there. And there again, I don't know how much we do work with the library now, but there's a lot of things that can be done between our library and the public library. And there's money and grants out there that can be very helpful.
Well, I ended up being in one of the same classes with Ron, unfortunately. We were texting each other, I didn't even know he was behind me. Really good. And I was on the library
Wearing a class, how do you like that?
Yeah, it was right before, and I didn't do it during the class, I must say. Ron texted me, "Where you at?" Stand right in front of you, Ron. Anyway, the keynote, the first speaker was really energetic. When you have us, fun to listen to, had a lot of, I wish I could remember everything you said. You know, you sit here and you take notes. I told Ron I left my bag of goodies at the house. But he was pretty impressive on everything that he talked about, you know, and the second guy, that was the closing speaker, he was kind of unique. We sat in these classes to learn about, I went to one with healthcare costs and how we can save money doing different ways of applying healthcare, and there's a whole list of things they talked about. And the world's best workforce was probably the library like Ron went to, but after you sit there for 2.5 days or a day and a half and talk, and then you have this guy at the end that says the way that we're doing things is so wrong. And, I mean, he sat up there and said education is more of a business and not educating kids, and how we need to have our kids learn to adapt to what they can do or what's available outside. How did he say it? He kept saying that.
Well,
Your goal in life should be to get your kids out of your basement.
Yeah, and he said that we should be educating them for entrepreneurship, not employee-based.
Right.
Not to make
Work for
robots
others.
for people.
Yeah, but to be the one.
To
He said
work
it's
for
funny
someone.
that there's so many of the people out there that have been very entrepreneurish, that are hiring people that have PhDs from these universities to work for them. And most of these guys never even went to a university that are the entrepreneurs. And he says a lot of times we're just teaching our kids kind of the opposite. instead of, like Ron said, having them learn, we're in a trade business, having them learn how to become a welder to work for somebody else when they should be looking at other facets of opportunities.
I think he was thinking Bill Gates is probably one of the most successful college dropouts.
Yeah, it was kind of unique, some of the things that he talked about. And he said, here we have these kids that were building robots so other people could lose their jobs, basically. Now they have robots that build cars, or are now down the road with these Google cars, is one of the examples they used. If you just look at it, the Google car in the next 5, 10, 15 years comes about, which it probably will, look at all the jobs that are going to be depleted. You know, like, you're not going to need a taxi driver. You may not need as many police department as you have now, because there won't be any drunk drivers, because anybody with common sense will call a Google car to pick them up and take them home. So you don't have to worry about that. You know,
Common sense.
yeah, that's true. But there was a lot of that discussion, is kind of look at what's out there that your kids should be learning, not necessarily the way we're teaching them today. So it was kind of interesting that he kind of shot down the whole day and a half of training to some degree. I mean, it's like, man, we're in the wrong boat here. He was a pretty interesting guy, though. Very intelligent man.
But the worst farmer in China.
Worst farmer in China,
The word
yeah.
peasant, failed.
Yeah, yeah.
He's a failed peasant.
Yeah, he was a failed peasant farmer in China, if that's possible. But it was pretty unique, and the library one where it talks about world's greatest work, world's best workforce, they talked a little bit about opportunities that our local public libraries have. Like Ron had mentioned grants, they said that a lot of these public libraries will have a 3D printer that may be available in some areas. Grant opportunities was a big thing. Music opportunities for these kids to download stuff, to partner up with the local library for these STEM programs. And what was the other one? It was, but it added arts, right, into it.
And staff.
And, yeah.
And staff to help you.
And staff, yeah. And working with your local public libraries and taking advantage of the people that are there, where you're not hiring in location for training or whatever other facilities that they have available. It was interesting. So, I'll try to bring some more next time. I'm gonna bring my bag of goodies to give away that are all on the table here. More gifts to come.
Well, as long as we're talking about, are you done?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll try to keep it brief,
Sure.
but, it was a good conference. I agree with you, and the keynote and then the closing session is all of what you said, I guess, just to sort of highlight. I think you said it to me, a lot of the information is not new information. We've heard that information before, but he spun it in a new way that made you sort of sit up and take notice. Things about, to improve as a district, you must build a team that finds, an administrative team that finds kind of the sweet spot between micromanaging and being a board that is uninformed delegation, that it takes a lot of education for us to understand what the programs are so that we can be a supportive team, so that we can celebrate effort and move forward. I went to the early bird session the night before the keynote, and that was on cybercrime and on what to do if you have been hacked. And he presented real cases of real people in retailers, banks, governments, and individuals who had been targeted by hackers. There's no way, no matter how secure you are, that you can stop this. That said, we need to take efforts to be secure and educate our students, educate our staff, educate everybody on the potential threats, and don't be an ostrich, because hackers' attacks are motivated by the money, by targeting individuals or organizations, and he feels that school board members and perhaps school officials, administrators, coaches could be targeted if, the means are out there. And then you've got people who have a cause that they just want to make the cause. It was, kind of jaw-dropping. A lot of people in the room were like, when he was showing these real cases of things that he's investigating. He also said what to do if you suspect a cybercrime, or if you think, someone has been hacked or someone is doing something, how to approach that. I went to a seminar on, it was, I can't remember what it was called, but it was presented by the superintendent and the entire board from Sauk Rapids Rice. Sauk Rapids Rice School District 5 years ago was the second lowest funded district in the state of Minnesota. They had failed on passing an operating referendum time and time again. They had students leaving the district, open enrolling in the neighboring districts. They had their kindergarten class, they got to the point where they had to cut staff, and their kindergarten classes were 31 students per section in kindergarten. And they capped their activity fee for families was $900. They kept raising the activity fee for families because they had no funds. And what they did in over the course of 5 years is increase their enrollment by 800 students. This is a district that has like 4,000 students, I believe, but they increased their local enrollment by 800 students, 800 students. They passed an operating referendum. They lowered activity fees, and their kindergarten classes are down to a reasonable level. So it was how they did that. They did it slowly, methodically. They reached out, just like you said, with the news, with more than a newsletter, going to more than your district, your community members that have parents have kids in school. They used a system that just started announcing to everyone in the community everything going on in the school all the time. They just started saying we have this game or this thing.
How did they say that?
They used a system called Skylert. It's a community thing called Skylert, and instead of like our Infinite Campus calling parents and saying, you know, basketball game tonight or snow day or whatever, this reaches everybody in the community.
So it calls them, so they started calling everybody?
They just said it's robocalls.
Telling them of games?
Telling them of everything going on. So that people in the community without kids, well, I'm not saying, it's just what they did.
It's interesting that works. It's that they've done other stuff too.
Yes, he started, superintendent had monthly meetings. He called every family that was open enrolled out of the district and said, I'm not trying to talk you back into this district, I just want to know if you're willing to share why. And the three big reasons were no breakfast, activity fees were too high, and no all-day kindergarten 5 years ago. So they invested in all-day kindergarten, they reduced activity fees, and they started investing in breakfast, and they got their families back and more.
I could definitely call the kids that are open and rolled out.
I mean, if you find a common theme, that this is the reason, and it's something you can do something about.
That is really.
I bet that made more difference than those robocalls.
No,
I'm sure it did.
Well, you know, with the robocalls, you know, how are they?
I don't know, it's
How
just
are
a
they
system,
presented, you
I
know,
don't know
that
how
could
they.
be the whole thing, and if people think of it like a game, you know, they'd be expecting them, you know.
Well, yeah, so.
Well, and likewise, I mean, there are homeschooled people that you could just say, I'm not trying to convince you to come to school, but what is stopping you from
Yeah.
Exactly, and
what's your
that's how-
opinion, and
Well, I
you
know
could get some great
St.
feedback.
John's comes out, so.
I think that if you did that, it would be good. Okay.
And I'm not suggesting we do these are just things that work for him. He, after every employee in the district that's in a leadership role, every teacher, every coach, every administrator that has been hired at their various buildings, I wrote down how many buildings they have, not that many, but enough. He did a second interview, 30-minute interview with every new staff. And and said, you're coming to this community, everybody in this community is related to 3 families from this community. You are representing me and my school in this community. Do you understand that that's what our district is? And he said that, he feels that made a difference with every employee that he's hired. He says it takes a ton of time. But
You bet. I got one last thing. The other thing I did go to was I went to the follow-up by the keynote speaker, where he kind of, it was called how to implement some of the things we talked about. I think the thing that he mentioned that really struck me as being so true is that we have these visions, missions, and goals, and we kind of go through them and know what they mean. But he said if you gave one of those things to 10 of your employees, you'd get 10 different answers on what it means. You got to get from having those words to implementing. And I did bring this along, so if anybody wants to peruse it, you can do that.
I have 2 more, and I'll try to keep it brief. I went to the same one, the World's Best Workforce for School Readiness, and I feel good that we have good systems in place. I think it does make a difference to bring those kids in and keep them there. And then I went to another one that was done, it's called Leveraging Effective Decisions to Maximize Student Outcomes Using the Data. And it was from a woman who was talking stats to a room of not statisticians, but talking about the things that we can do that have proven research-based negative effects on student outcomes. Grade retention, proven negative effect. Student mobility, negative effect. We have a lot of students that are mobile with our online schools, and that is just something that is a tough hill to get over. Summer vacation, negative effect. Television, more than 10 hours a week, a known negative effect. She wants to do the research on, does that extend to screen time, or is it, because the research now says television time. So what does screen time say? And then she talked about the zone of desired effects. Student self-reporting on their achievement, formative evaluation, the right evaluation done at the right time. She said, everyone's against assessment now, and we're doing too much testing, but her point was you can never have too much of the right kind of testing. Informative assessments with 1-minute reading things and 5-minute math-based things. I'm sure you know about these, where the teachers then adjust their teaching, can have hugely positive desired effects. It made me think how much work our teachers do, and our administrators do, and our educators do every day that we're not aware of, and I think it's important that we are more aware of what those things are so we can support them. There are curriculum-based measures, and then another positive one was feedback, student feedback to teachers. I had no idea how students give feedback to teachers in this district at any level, or if we do. And then relationships, teachers to students, and I think we've been working on that in a number of levels in MNDA, which these are all zone of desired effects research-based. And then the closing guy, yeah, he made me uncomfortable, but for the right reasons. But at the end, he said the jobs that are going up were in creativity, the entrepreneurs, and service. So people who are getting trained for service positions, they need a traditional education. Those service paths are going to be the lower paid people, but we're going to need them increasingly. So I just thought that was interesting. So it made me want to never lose band, never lose art, never lose robotics, never lose those things that give kids those opportunities, even athletics, they can create. Find their passion.
And it's good because all those things we still maintain, where a lot of schools have eliminated those things that, to me, make our students that much better after it is easier. It's just, you don't think of that when you're in school, but obviously it has its effects.
And I also want to thank Corinne for presenting. I think it's pretty remarkable that she was presenting at the annual school board conference and was invited to do so and represented it so well. I think it's great. Thank you.
Thank you. That was just a riveting presentation.
I bet it was.
We heard.
How to figure out the area under the grass.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting, so.
We were gonna go and listen to you, but we figured you'd give it to us personally.
Yeah.
The Cadillac tax for the Affordable Care Act, yeah, it's,
We'll hear about it, I'm sure.
yeah, we will.
So, okay. Anything else? Thanks everybody for going and the opportunity to go. Hopefully we'll have one next year. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, anything else that we have for future agenda items? So, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Right, all in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you.
Anyone want to see the new life in one of the classrooms?
Yeah.
You wanna have some of these tidbits for your,
I have kids, these are all stuff.
They're all on the side of the, I'm sure you didn't accept anything under.
No.